Hello, I'm Dale Yurton, and welcome to our series on leadership. I'm giving you different principles of leadership, some of the best lessons and messages that I have been able to put together concerning this subject. This particular lesson, I'm calling it How to Receive Greater Vision. How to receive greater vision. And what we're going to do, we're going to take the story found in the 19th chapter of the book of Luke, where Jesus is going through Jericho, and there's a tax collector by the name of Zacchaeus that wants to see Jesus. It's an excellent story on the subject of how to receive greater vision. It says in verse 1, "Then Jesus entered and passed through Jericho." Luke 19 and 1. Now, if you go back and study the ministry, the life of Christ, you realize that this is not the first time Jesus has come through Jericho. But as you study his life, you realize it will be the last time he comes through Jericho. The reason is simple. He's on his way to Jerusalem for the Passover feast, where he's going to be crucified. He's on his way to the cross. He's going to die this time in Jerusalem. And if Zacchaeus had not taken advantage of this opportunity, there would not have been another chance for him to see Jesus. So that's the first point that I want to make concerning how to receive greater vision. We should always be looking for new opportunities. Now that's a very important point. And so many times we miss our opportunities simply because we're not paying attention. As I said of Zacchaeus, if he had missed this opportunity, there would not have been another opportunity. It's as someone has said, most opportunities in life are like moving targets. Now, I give you a picture there of a dartboard. That's a fixed target, where you're aiming and throwing the dart at a target that is fixed on the wall. But most targets in life are not that way. They're windows of opportunity. It's here now, it's gone tomorrow. And if you do not take advantage of it, then you miss your opportunity. In Luke 19:2, it goes on to say, "Behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus who was a chief tax collector, and he was rich." Every time I read that, it makes me want to smile, because the Bible doesn't say that I was rich, but it certainly says this man was a wealthy tax collector. And not just an ordinary tax collector, he was a chief tax collector. He hears that Jesus is in Jericho, and he realizes, this is my chance. I want to see Jesus. Now, the truth is, opportunity seldom knocks twice. You have your opportunity, but if you move too slowly, you miss the opportunity. Don't miss your chance by moving too slowly. You've got to be alert, awake to what's going on around you, or you will miss your opportunity. The second point that I want to point out in this story is we must define what we want. Defining what we want. So many people really don't know what they want. They haven't thought it through. And if that's you, then it doesn't matter. If you don't know where you're going, then any road will do. But if you know where you're going, Zacchaeus knew what he wanted. See, defining our desires helps us understand our limitations. And we all have them. Every one of us have limitations. In this story with Zacchaeus, it goes on in verse 3 to say, he sought to see who Jesus was. Remember, this is the days before we had social media and we had everybody carrying a camera around with their iPhones or whatever smartphone that they might be using. No, they didn't have that. He's never seen Jesus. But he wants to see Jesus. But he could not, because he was of the crowd and he was short of stature. Now, he understood his limitations. His limitation, two things. Number one, he was short man. Number two, Jesus is surrounded by a multitude of people. But because he knows what he wants, and you must define that. What is it that you really want in life? What is your vision? What is it that you want to accomplish? By knowing where we want to go, it helps us to avoid the detours of life. So many of us waste so much time going down the wrong road on the detours of life. Thank God Zacchaeus did not do that, because this was his last chance. Now, the third thing that I see in this story, that Zacchaeus, he knew exactly what he was supposed to do. The third thing is, we must determine which direction life is moving. Now, that is very important for us to know, because again, if you don't know where you're going, then what's the purpose of even going there? Determine which direction life is moving. It's what has been defined as thinking on your feet. You've got to be able to take what information you have and process that and come up with the right answer, the right conclusion. That's what Zacchaeus did, and he did it very quickly. Jesus is in town. Jesus, I want to see Jesus. Well, why is he in town? Oh, he's going to the Passover feast in Jerusalem. Now, because he knows where Jesus is going, he knows the direction he needs to go. Because Jesus is going to the Jewish feast, Zacchaeus knows there's only one road from Jericho that leads to Jerusalem. So now he knows where he needs to station himself if he's going to see Jesus. You've got to do the same thing in your life. You must define what it is that you're wanting. What do you want to accomplish? What is your purpose? If you don't define those things, you're going to waste too much time and run out of time, never obtaining the objectives that God wanted to fulfill in your life. It says in Luke 19:4, and so he, Zacchaeus, ran ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, to see Jesus, for he was going to pass that way. Zacchaeus knew that Jesus was just going through Jericho. He's on his way to Jerusalem. So here's my opportunity. I will get ahead of the crowd. He ran ahead of the crowd. Well, that is important. He's able to run ahead because he knows where Jesus is going. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to be able to run ahead of the crowd looking for new opportunities. The question that I give you is, are we willing to run in order to gain new vision? What is it that you're willing to pay? What is it that you're willing to do? He ran ahead of the crowd. Another question is, do you know which road to take? There's nothing worse than running hard in the wrong direction. And I've seen so many people make that mistake because they did not define what their purpose. They did not define their objective. And because of this, they get on the wrong road and waste a lot of time. And so that brings me to the fourth thing I want to talk about. The fourth thing is, we must know our limitations. Know our limitations. As I said, all of us have them. Every one of us have limitations. Zacchaeus, his problem was there's a lot of people and he was a short man. Because of his size, he couldn't fight the crowd and win. Now, I want to slow down here because this is a mistake that I personally have made, particularly when I was younger. I wasted too much time and energy fighting the crowd, trying to get people to do something they didn't want to do. But you don't win. There's more of them than there are of you. You're not going to win that battle. Thank God Zacchaeus did not make that mistake. He realized I can't fight the crowd and win. What I've got to do is get ahead of the crowd and then start looking for a way to elevate my view. And in his case, the way he discovered a position was up in the sycamore tree. Up there, this tree is right over the street. I'll be able to see Jesus as he passes by. So he's looking for a way to elevate his view, and he's willing to humble himself to climb higher. I point out to you what the scripture said. He was a rich man. He was a chief tax collector. So everybody knew who he was. He doesn't care what people think. He's not worried about that. This wealthy tax collector is behaving like a child climbing a tree. He doesn't care what people think about him because he knows what he wants. He wants to see Jesus. And the way he discovered the opportunity for him was to run ahead and climb the tree. And so I challenge you. That's what you must do if you're going to obtain greater vision. Now here's the fifth thing that I want to talk about. The fifth thing is we need to be prepared for the unexpected. The unexpected. Up to this point, Zacchaeus has been making the decision based upon his desire, his limitations. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to see Jesus. He's willing to run ahead of the crowd if that's what it takes. He's willing to humble himself and climb a tree, no matter how many people laugh about him. And I assure you there were people that were laughing that day. That's just human nature. Somebody said, there's Zacchaeus. He's up in the tree. And it was a joke to some of the people. It was no joke to him because he knew what he wanted. He wanted to see Jesus. But here's the point. He's up in the tree looking for Jesus. He knows he's looking for Jesus. What he doesn't know, Jesus is looking for him. Now that's one of the surprises that we receive in life. We think that we are running after God. We think we are seeking after God. What a shock when we find God has been seeking us all the time. So when Jesus came to that place, everything changed. In Luke 19:5, it says, when Jesus came to the place, the sycamore tree, the tree that Zacchaeus had chosen to climb, Jesus looked up and he saw him and said to him, Zacchaeus, that he knew him by name. Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house. Wow. You talk about the unexpected. That was unexpected. Zacchaeus never in his wildest imagination dreamed that Jesus is waiting for an invitation to his house. He wants to see Jesus. He didn't know that Jesus wanted to see Zacchaeus. And I think that's some of the biggest surprises that we gain in life is when we discover we have not been in this alone. God has been with us all the time. He's seeking after us. He's pursuing us. He's dealing with us even when we didn't even know that he was there. It's kind of like Jacob when he said, and he awakened and he said, God is in this place and I didn't even know it. How many times I've experienced that in my life, and I'm sure many of you have experienced the same thing. That's what happened to Zacchaeus. Now here's what he did. He quickly responded to this unexpected opportunity. Now that's very important. He quickly responded. The way the scripture records it's in verse 6, where it says, So he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. Now, if you think Zacchaeus was in a hurry when he was running ahead of the crowd, or that he was in a hurry as he tries to climb the sycamore tree, you ought to have seen him when he's coming down. He made haste and came down. See, the truth is, this is what I call a today moment. We never know when God will give us a today moment. And I take that from verse 5 where Jesus said, today I must stay at your house. Wow. Zacchaeus never in his wildest imagination ever dreamed that he not only was going to see Jesus, but see him face to face, but then that Jesus was going to come to his house and be his guest. That's a today moment. It's more than just a statement. It's a true fact of life. God responds quickly to those who quickly respond. Boy, I believe that with all of my heart, that if we are going to increase our vision, have greater vision, we've got to be able and ready to immediately respond to whatever it is that God is calling us to do. Now, here's the sixth thing that I see in this story. We must not allow critics to take control of our vision. All right, it happens to every one of us. Every one of us are going to have the critics in our life. Who are they? You'll find it in Luke, the 19th chapter, and verse 7, where it says, but when they saw it, they all complained, saying, he is gone to be a guest with a man who is a sinner. That's the critics. That's the one that'll take control of your vision. See, what Zacchaeus wanted more than anything else, he wanted to see Jesus. But immediately when his feet hits the ground and he's looking up directly into the face of Jesus, he hears this complaining behind him. People saying, he cheated me out of my tax money. This man is a thief. You know, what Zacchaeus is tempted to do is turn around and answer his critic. But the moment that he does that, he has lost his vision. What did he want? He wanted to see Jesus. That was his goal. That was his purpose. That's what he desired. But if you're not careful, your critics will take control of your vision. See, you've got to learn to beware of they. They. Who are they? They are the unknowns that stand in the crowd and murmur and complain. They see a problem in every solution. They always have more questions than they have answers. And if you're not careful, critics can steal our joy. We lose our vision because we begin seeing what the critic is saying. We begin listening to them rather than listening to Jesus. We begin looking at them and arguing and quarreling with them rather than looking to Jesus. What's the solution to this? The solution is disarm criticism by agreeing with the truth. Now, the best illustration I ever saw of this was I was watching a telecast, an interview. A very famous newscaster was interviewing Dr. Billy Graham. And it was an hour-long interview, and she came out. She was like a cat ready to pounce upon him. And that's what she did. After they greeted one another, she said, smiling, Dr. Graham, and she begins talking about money. Oh, it gets back to money most of the time, doesn't it? In Zacchaeus' case, in Dr. Graham's case, and I'll never forget his response. He bows his head, looks down, smiling, shaking his head, and then he looks at this newscaster and he said, what can I say? We made a mistake. Now, if we had known then what we know now, we would have done things differently, but We were acting on the best information that we had, and we simply made a mistake. Now what was he doing? He was disarming his critic by agreeing with the truth. The truth was they made a mistake. It was an honest mistake, and every one of us have made mistakes. And so, again, she does the same thing. Another question about a decision about money. And his response was identical, the same. I'll never forget that, because immediately the whole demeanor of that program changed, and it was like a little girl sitting at her grandfather's feet, and he led the way through the rest of that interview. See, what critics do, critics attempt to focus our attention on the wrong things. They try to get our attention off of Jesus, whatever our objective is, whatever our goal, what this new vision that we have. They try to get our attention on the wrong things. It is a mistake, my friend. Don't make that mistake. And don't allow the critics to take control of what we see. It's a mistake. And if Zacchaeus had done that, the very thing that he desired would have been lost. The very thing that he had run for, the thing that he humbled himself as he climbs a tree, he would have lost his opportunity if he had spent it answering his critics. And so I caution you, don't allow the critics to take control of what you see. Now here's the seventh thing I see in this story. We must be willing to sacrifice for our dream. Willing to sacrifice. Zacchaeus begins talking about money. Now, why is he talking about money? Jesus had not said one thing about money. I'm sure Zacchaeus remembered what the critics were saying. They had a lot to say about money. But Zacchaeus had discovered something. The Bible said he was rich, but he had discovered money could not satisfy his soul. The deepest longings within, his greatest desires, could not be satisfied with money. And so what Zacchaeus, he speaks up, even though Jesus has said nothing about money. In Luke 19:8, it said, then Zacchaeus stood. They've been reclining at the table as they're fellowshipping and eating. And he said to the Lord, to Jesus, look, Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor. And if I have taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I restore fourfold. Boy, that is a powerful statement. Again, Jesus had said nothing about money. Zacchaeus is the one that brings up the subject because he's discovered money cannot meet my intimate needs. Money cannot change my life. All money can do is give me opportunities. That's all it is. Money's simply a tool. So he said, one half of my goods I give to the poor. Now, we don't know how much money he had. We know he was rich, but we don't know how much he had. One half is one half. It doesn't matter what you have. I've had so many people say to me, if I had $1 million, I would give you a generous offering. They never help me. Why? They're not willing to share what they have. One half is one half. And he said, I'm willing to give one half of all that I own. Why? Why is he talking about money? Because he realizes I have all this money, but it has not brought me satisfaction. It's not brought me eternal life. It's not brought me happiness. It's not brought me health. Money cannot buy the most important things in life. So here's what he's doing. He's developing a spirit of generosity. May God make us generous people. God is a generous God. He's always giving his blessings to us. He causes the sun to shine on the just and the unjust. He sends rain on the just and the unjust. He's a generous God. So we need to develop a spirit of generosity. It's been well said. People that are afraid of giving too much always give too little. Boy, that is so true. That is so true. And there are so many people that they're just tight-fisted. They can't enjoy life because things have taken control of them. Money controls them. Don't allow that to happen. He's saying, 1/2 of my goods I'm going to give with the poor, and if I've done something wrong, I'm going to make it right. See, in other words, he's willing to sacrifice what he has to gain what he doesn't have. As I said, the most important things in life, money cannot buy. He's got money. He's willing to share the money, give the money to gain the satisfaction, the vision that he wants. The truth is, everything costs something. Everything. And so many people waste their life, their time, their talent, their treasure on trivia. Don't make that mistake, my friend. Follow the example of Zacchaeus. The question I leave with you is, what are we willing to give to obtain greater vision? What is it that you're willing to sacrifice? What is it that you're willing to invest in others that you can accomplish the things that are nearest to your heart, the things that mean the most to you? Are you willing to invest? Are you willing to sacrifice? If we're not, there's no way we're going to obtain it. Jesus says to him in verse 9, today salvation has come to this house because he also is a son of Abraham. Do you see what he's done? Salvation is something you can't buy. Seek the things that money cannot buy, and you will obtain greater vision.